Imagine having the ability to captivate a man's thoughts without resorting to being pushy or using artificial tricks. Just 3 words, spoken with special meaning and intention, can make a difference, transforming you from just another face in the crowd into someone he can't forget. This isn't just about pickup lines or rehearsed phrases from romantic comedies. It's about deeply understanding what attracts people. As the famous psychologist Carl Gustav Jung said, "We're truly influenced not by logical arguments, but by symbols and emotions. It's not what's on the surface that fascinates us, but what resonates with our subconscious. That's where we should start." Jung once noted, "What we don't realize comes to us as fate." So, why not learn to tap into a man's subconscious from the start? Many women start conversations with harmless but trivial phrases like, "Hi, how are you?" or "How was your day?" And that's where it ends. There's no spark, energy, or hint of a story in these words. What happens next? The man answers politely, but his thoughts don't linger on you because your words didn't evoke any feelings, images, or curiosity in him. Without emotion, there's no memory. The brain doesn't remember dry facts, but vivid impressions. Jung said, "What touches us emotionally stays with us forever." But what are these magical words? You'll find out by watching until the end. Your failure in communicating with men isn't due to personal shortcomings, but to an incorrect approach. However, the situation can change dramatically if you master the art of speaking convincingly and with the right attitude. This will not only attract a man's attention, but also plant a deep feeling in his mind that he can't ignore. As a result, you'll occupy a firm place in his thoughts, even when you're not around. Before we reveal the secret of these magic words, think about how often your attempts to start a conversation have been unsuccessful. It's probably happened more than once. This doesn't mean you're unattractive. It just indicates that you used a language that didn't touch his emotional instincts. It's important to understand that these 3 words aren't a universal formula for success, but when used skillfully, they can dramatically change his perception of you. If you say them naturally and casually, the effect will exceed all expectations. Many women mistakenly believe that to win a man over, they need to constantly show off their charm, look perfect, and say only the right things. However, as the renowned psychologist Carl Jung stated, the male subconscious responds much more strongly to symbolism than to logic. This means that perfection isn't the key to his heart. You can only touch him by touching his emotional sphere. You don't need to tell exciting stories, you just need to stop being like everyone else. Think about it. If a man receives many similar messages from different women every day, they all become indistinguishable background noise. Your goal isn't to dissolve into this noise, but to stand out from the crowd. The mistake isn't in approaching him, but in not causing any emotions when you do. In that case, your appearance will go unnoticed, as if you weren't even there. Even worse, some women, in their eagerness to win attention, make the mistake of showering a man with excessive attention from the start. Long, enthusiastic messages, exaggerated compliments, and an endless stream of questions. But alas, this has the opposite effect. Such behavior seems intrusive. The man feels overwhelmed, as if he's being suffocated with care, and as a result, he distances himself. So how do you ensure that from the first minutes of communication, a man is completely focused on you? First of all, give up rehearsed phrases and polite cliches, as if you're playing a role in a play. Secondly, remember that true attraction doesn't arise from words, but from the feelings you evoke in the soul of another person. Imagine this situation. You walk into a cozy cafe and notice a man you like. Most women, following the usual script, would ask, "Are you waiting for someone?" Or, "May I sit here?" It sounds polite, even courteous, but unfortunately, it's completely ordinary and predictable. Now imagine another option. You smile slightly and say with a twinkle in your eyes, You and I urgently need to clarify one important question. Is the coffee here really delicious, or is it just a deceptive impression? That's where the real story begins. Can you feel the difference? It's not just a stock phrase, it's a bright moment, a small but effective twist that destroys the grey routine, tears the man out of autopilot, and makes him really pay attention to you. That's the effect created by what the great psychologist Carl Gustav Jung called emotional resonance, an echo, a response in his inner world that stays with him long after, even if he can't fully grasp it. And when you achieve that, you begin to hold a firm place in his memory. And when he remembers you, he starts to look at you with completely different eyes, as if you are a mysterious stranger he wants to unravel. So it's time to leave behind the empty greetings, those faceless phrases that don't evoke any emotion, because in this exciting game called love, you either leave an indelible mark or disappear without a trace, dissolving into the crowd. And now that you've grasped the essence of why, you're fully ready for action. You and I, just 3 words, yet what a powerful effect they can have. In the seeming simplicity of this phrase lies enormous power, capable of working wonders in the realm of human relationships. When we say you and I, we're not just exchanging words, we're creating a vivid picture in the other person's mind, where a connection already exists between us. We mentally project the possibility of a shared future, painting a scene in which he sees himself next to us. From a psychological point of view, this is a much more effective technique than it might seem at first glance. As Carl Jung asserted, a symbol is a direct path to the unconscious, and the phrase you and I acts precisely as a symbol, awakening dormant desires in the soul and opening doors to unexplored possibilities. Instead of asking a question, we make a suggestion, and we do it elegantly and confidently. Think for a moment. When we ask, "Do you want to go somewhere with me?" we seem to be handing the initiative over to the other person, as if we need their permission. But if we confidently say, "You and I absolutely have to get out somewhere on Saturday," the situation changes dramatically. This is no longer a timid question, but an invitation filled with intention and anticipation. It is precisely this approach that leaves an indelible impression. Imagine the situation. You meet an interesting person, and the conversation flows effortlessly and engagingly. Instead of the banal, "It's very nice talking to you," you could say, "You and I could have dangerously interesting conversations." Do you feel the difference? There's playfulness, wit, and most importantly, it plants the idea of us in the other person's mind. That's what makes him perceive you in a completely new way. Why does this work? It's all because these 3 magic words convey 3 qualities that men especially value in women. Self-confidence, because you're not asking, but asserting. Clarity, because you know exactly what you want and state it unequivocally. And initiative, because you don't wait for him to take everything into his own hands, but actively participate in creating a shared moment. However, it should be emphasized that you shouldn't throw the phrase "you and I" around haphazardly like cheap compliments. The magic of these words lies not only in their content, but also in the appropriateness of the moment and the manner of delivery. Spoken casually, with downcast eyes and a quiet voice, they lose all power. But if the same words are spoken with a warm smile, a confident look, and unruffled composure, they can create true alchemy. Therefore, the next time fate brings you together with a man who truly touches the strings of your soul, cast aside meaningless clichés and try using this simple but effective technique, a deliberate and measured "you and I." Carefully watch his reaction, because in attraction, as in life itself, the right words, spoken with the right intonation, can open doors to a world of possibilities you never knew existed. Right now, the question is probably ripening in your head. How and when is it best to use this phrase so that it really achieves its goal? Now you know the key, you and I. But remember that using it thoughtlessly can negate its entire potential effect. This is not a universal mantra to be repeated non-stop, but a subtle tool that, in skilled hands, can ignite a spark, and in unskilled hands, looks like a banal and strained ploy. The first and most important rule is to choose the right moment. These words gain power when a certain connection has already been established between you. It doesn't necessarily have to be all-consuming passion, but there should be ease in the conversation and mutual interest in the glances. Imagine the situation. You are passionately discussing music and suddenly find out that you are both crazy about the same band. This is the perfect moment. Then casually drop the phrase, "You and I absolutely have to go to their concert together sometime." What have you just done? You have planted a seed. In his imagination, a picture of your joint outing begins to emerge without a nagging request for permission. In the second place, remember, intonation is the conductor of your symphony. Even the most profound words will lose their power if spoken in a timid voice. Take a breath, maintain composure, look directly into their eyes, and speak as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. Avoid feigned seriousness or nervous laughter. Exude a calm, confident energy that says, "I know my worth." Third, context is your best ally. If a man is distracted, stressed, or you barely know each other, don't rush things. An inappropriate moment strips the phrase of its charm. It's important that your words harmonize with the overall atmosphere of the conversation. And most importantly, let your phrase sound genuine, not like a rehearsed monologue in front of a mirror. Let it be a spontaneous, natural response to what's happening between you. Carl Jung spoke of synchronicity, of meaningful coincidences, when everything falls into place on its own. Strive for this, so that your phrase feels like a natural continuation of the conversation, not a calculated move. After all, there's a subtle but palpable line between someone who creates attraction and someone who tries to force it. The former believes in their words, the latter is just playing a role. Use this phrase skillfully. Say "you and I" in the right tone, at the right moment, with a confident look, and watch how his perception of you changes. Now, let's talk about the most common mistake that can undo all your efforts. Excessive enthusiasm. Yes, this phrase has magical power, but imagine the situation. You've just met a man, and within minutes you're saying, "We absolutely have to get together this Saturday." What happens? Awkwardness arises. Distance. The chemistry instantly evaporates. Not because the phrase is bad, but because you said it too soon. Attraction cannot be imposed. It can only be hinted at. It should feel light, like a summer breeze, not like a demand. Too insistent a suggestion creates a sense of pressure, and pressure, as we know, causes resistance. Imagine the perfect moment. You're laughing together. The atmosphere is filled with positivity, and you can feel that chemistry between you. In this setting, a phrase dropped casually, "You know, we could make an amazing team," sounds like a promise of something exciting. You're not making demands, you're not putting on pressure, but you're gently hinting at the potential of your connection. Now imagine another situation. After just 5 minutes of talking, you declare with a serious expression, "We're destined to be together." Instead of attraction, this causes more anxiety, as if you've skipped several stages of the relationship without getting to know its beginning. Another common mistake is constant repetition. If "you and I" is heard in every conversation, it starts to feel like a desperate attempt to create a connection. The true art lies in moderation. Use this phrase as a spark, not as a banner that you wave tirelessly. In the realm of attraction, Less is more, and mystery is always more attractive than obsession. 1 or 2 appropriate mentions are enough to plant the seed. The power of these words is not in the immediate reaction, but in the quiet reflection they evoke. You may not see an instant response, but that doesn't mean you haven't touched his feelings. He may spend the whole day thinking about your words, about something that sounded so casual, but won't leave his head. A common mistake is to say, "you and I," and then anxiously await confirmation, as if begging for it. This deprives the phrase of all magic. But if you say it easily and casually continue the conversation, he is left wondering, trying to understand what you meant. Self-confidence, naturalness, and lack of neediness are the secret recipe. When a woman who knows her worth utters these words, she opens a door. If her voice sounds insecure or needy, the door will slam shut before she can reach it. And now we'll touch on an aspect that is often overlooked, but of colossal importance: body language. Let's say you've already mastered the art of choosing words and the moment to say them. However, if your non-verbal communication dissonates with the verbal message, all the magic of the moment evaporates. As Carl Jung perceptively noted, the body speaks what the soul cannot express in words. Your gestures start speaking for you even before you utter the first word. Imagine the situation. You suggest, "We should get together sometime on Saturday." But you say it quietly, avoiding eye contact and shrinking. All the attractiveness of the phrase instantly disappears. Why? Because your body language is screaming, "I'm not confident in myself." And if you're not sure, how can you expect him to be sure? A completely different effect is achieved when you look into his eyes a little longer than usual, giving him a soft, casual smile. In this case, your message penetrates not only the mind, but also the subconscious. Self-assurance, devoid of arrogance, possesses a magnetic allure. Your voice should sound even and calm, without a hint of haste, as if what you are saying is completely natural to you, and it truly is. Such tranquility speaks volumes without words, conveying very convincingly, "I don't need your approval, but if you're open to something new, we might be in for something exciting." Pay attention to your posture. Crossed arms, slouching, or trying to take up as little space as possible non-verbally communicate, "I feel uncomfortable here." At the same time, a casual posture, allowing you to occupy your space without excessive tension, exudes effortless self-confidence. It's a subtle but very noticeable nuance. Imagine a relaxed, pleasant conversation during which you say, "We could be a dangerously good team." If you say this with a downcast gaze, in a quiet voice, and without the slightest expression, it will remain just an empty phrase. But if you utter the same words, looking directly into their eyes, in a calm and relaxed voice, it will become an emotional lure that will be very difficult to shake off. Even a perfectly worded phrase can lose its power if the speaker is too focused on the listener's reaction. Don't incinerate the person with your gaze as if awaiting a verdict. Say what you want and continue the conversation as if nothing special has happened. The inner sense of harmony with oneself, indifference to the opinions of others, acts magnetically. Genuine attractiveness lies not only in the content of the words, but also in the confidence and calmness with which they are spoken. This principle applies not only in romantic relationships, but also in the business sphere. Imagine a work meeting where a complex task is being discussed. Instead of the banal, "We need to find a solution," you confidently address a colleague, "You and I can solve this quickly." This short statement exudes confidence, recognition of the colleague's abilities, and the instant creation of team spirit. Or, for example, a meeting with an old friend with whom there hasn't been contact for a long time. Instead of the formal, "How are you?" you could say, "You and I have an eternity of unfinished conversation." Such a phrase turns a superficial exchange of pleasantries into an emotional invitation to deeper communication. As Carl Jung asserted, such phrases activate relationship archetypes, creating a strong bond between people. The construction "you and I" becomes a symbolic key, opening doors to genuine intimacy in all spheres of life. After all, in the end, in love, friendship, or work, each of us strives for the same thing, the feeling that we are not alone, that we are seen, valued, and chosen. Conscious use of these simple words can create precisely this sense of unity and community. How often do we hear that careless, "We should get together sometime," which, like a promise cast to the wind, rarely materializes into reality. Compare that to a sincere invitation, "You and I definitely need to talk this week," uttered with a warm smile. The difference is palpable, isn't it? From a vague idea emerges a clear, open proposal, creating a completely different connection between people. The beauty of this approach lies in the fact that when you start naturally weaving "you and I" into your speech, not only does the reaction of those around you transform, but also your own perception of yourself. Self-confidence blossoms, communication becomes more direct and understandable, and your charisma intensifies. And then, you notice an amazing thing. People listen more attentively to your words, show genuine interest and openness. Why? Because each of us, without exception, strives to be part of something bigger, to feel our significance and be noticed. And when you give a person a sense, even through these 3 simple words, of the possibility of connection between you, you give them that precious feeling of emotional belonging. The great psychologist Carl Jung asserted that the deepest changes occur in us not through reflection, but through the feelings we experience in contact with another person. This is exactly the effect you achieve when you sincerely use "you and I." You evoke a shared emotion, create a space where genuine connection can be born. Don't limit these words to romantic situations. Take them with you into everyday life. Say them to friends, colleagues, family, and observe how your relationships deepen thanks to these 3 little words, opening new horizons of intimacy and mutual understanding. When you utter these simple words, born from a sincere connection, your relationships undergo an amazing transformation. They become more open, harmonious, and human. After all, in the end, what remains in people's memories is not what we say, but what feelings we awaken in them at the moment of conversation. Words only gain power when they are spoken with conscious intention, with complete presence and deep understanding. The phrase "you and I" is not a memorized trick, but a potent emotional tool capable of becoming a bridge between 2 souls. This small, yet significant gesture, originating from the depths of your true self, can fundamentally alter the dynamics of a conversation, strengthen relationships, and even influence the course of life. We have repeatedly observed how this simple formula transforms meetings, ignites mutual attraction, and intensifies connection in various spheres. However, it is important to remember that the essence lies not only in uttering these words, but in how you do it, with unflappable calm, crystal clarity, and at the right moment. Speak as if you have no need to impress, because you have long recognized your worth. True attraction is not born of pressure, but of invitation. It blossoms in moments of sincerity and in the space you leave for another person to approach of their own volition, without coercion or ostentatious display. Now it is your turn. Do not allow this idea to remain merely a thought. Try using the phrase "you and I" with wisdom, ease, and charm. Feel how the atmosphere around you changes, how the energy between you comes into motion, how your inner confidence radiates outward. And if this material has proven useful to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss new ideas that will help you communicate more effectively, confidently, and sincerely. Like this video if you want to learn more about similar tools, and share in the comments if you have ever felt special because of someone's words. After all, genuine communication lies not in verbosity, but in the ability to speak in such a way that you are heard by the heart.